Emily's working in the post office this morning. We'll talk about that later on. So I'm glad we found a time that's convenient for most people in the hub. However, people in California, for example, will not be able to, probably not, because it's 6:30 in the morning over there. Okay, so we are officially starting the 47th episode of the Tuning Fork, which is a live broadcast. People will be dropping in as the meeting continues. I'm saying hello to Tesney. I don't know where Tesney is, but Rita is in Madrid. Hello, Rita. And then Inus is in Uganda. Victoria's in Great Britain. Margaret is in Amsterdam. Gabby, I'm not sure where you are, Gabby. Forgive me, I forgot if you told me. Feel free to open up your microphone and tell us where you are. We are hosting on the 47th Tuning Fork Live. Oh, thanks, Tesney. Good to see you. Where are you, Tesney?
I'm in Bristol in the UK.
Okay. Do you have any media to share, just by the way?
I don't. I think Victoria might be on that. I'm with Cde UK.
Very good, very good. Excuse me. Now, normally, the Culture Declares Emergency hosts internal meetings where people in different countries talk about what's new with their work and contribute a collective sort of knowledge and methodologies, bringing people also up to date about what's going on in their regions. So today, this normally what is a internal meeting of conversations with various hubs is actually a public meeting. We're inviting people through our mailing list and on Facebook Live and YouTube to participate somehow in this meeting. Generally, the Facebook is not able to sort of interact with us during these sessions because we're busy in the session, and people on YouTube will, put a thumbs up or make comments later on. The broadcast will be recorded, is being recorded, and will be eventually on our website, which is anchored to Vimeo and YouTube eventually for archives. So that's about that. The format that we employed in Tuning Fork is basically, it's an interview setup where we speak. Normally Emily's with me, she's our producer. She's not here today because she's working in the local post office, running the post office. It's a very small place in a little bit of a hamlet nearby here. We're in the Catskill Mountains in New York State, the United States of America. And the time here is about 9:35 right now. So for the next 60 minutes, we're going to explore how things are going with various projects in the hubs from the Culture Declares Emergency project, various hubs that are located in different parts of the world. Perhaps it's interesting, Victoria, to introduce you and eventually to see a video that is made about Culture Declares Emergency by the community. Beautiful video that's on social media as well. We might also get into beyond hearing about projects, questions that people in different hubs might have for other people about, let's say, for lack of a better expression, best practices or best methods for doing the work in community. We were introduced, Emily and I, and we are also a hub working regionally here in the Catskill Mountains and internationally, including Margaret in Amsterdam, who's recently been in Japan and teaches internationally on Zoom and virtually. So we may have the opportunity to share some collective experiences and knowledge today that could benefit the different hubs and perhaps become synthesized somehow in a sort of way that it's been Victoria's responsibility, I believe, mostly to gather, the synopses of these meetings and share them widely among the group. Victoria, are you prepared to say a few words now? You're muted.
I am muted. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, John, and thank you so much for setting this all up. And apologies that my camera isn't working. I'm not hiding. I would rather have my camera on, but rather than struggle with it, I'm just going to go ahead without. So yeah, I suppose to just give a brief history of where we've come from, and how we've arrived at today. So Culture Declares was formed. Actually, I'll just introduce my two colleagues. So there's Tessney, who's with me from Culture Declares UK, and she's our digital communications coordinator. And she has a camera. Who's joined us for the last just a couple of weeks, actually. So it's good for her to understand the kind of breadth of our reach and our global movement, and also for you to meet her. And Gabby Solly, who's a Cde UK coordinator, who is also responsible for producing the film that I'll show at the end. She's also based in Bristol, is Tessney. Yes, she's part of one of the coordinators for Cde UK. Okay, so Culture Declares Emergency was formed in the UK in 2019. And one of its premises is that the climate and ecological emergency, or Earth crisis as we call it, is a result of culture, i.e. the dominant capitalist, neoliberalist, extractivist, colonialist culture that we all labour under. And importantly, if you view this crisis through the lens of culture, you can't avoid the human and nature justice considerations behind that, and who's in power, and who are the winners and who are the sufferers. And so it was set up with the view that in order to change our culture, we have to transform our stories and our values and our points of view to build a better, more sustainable, regenerative world. And therefore, the arts, culture, and creativity are central to that and central to a just transition. So since 2019, the movement has proliferated internationally. And in the last few years, it was felt right that Cde UK named itself in order to allow the flourishing of hubs in their own cultural contexts, and while uniting the movement under our three values, which are truth-telling, caretaking, and change-making.
Victoria, I'm just going to interrupt you for a second. Do you mind just experiment with trying to speak a little softer, because the audio quality causes a little bit of a jam. Yeah, let's just try.
I'll try. I didn't think I was shouting.
No.
I'll change my tone and see if it helps.
Let's just try it. Try it out.
Yeah, okay. Since then, Cde UK has encouraged sharing organisation with the other international hubs as an equal partner. So hence how we've got to this point today, where CDE, New York State are hosting this meeting. And we hope from here on in that other international hubs will do the same thing, and to pick up the facilitation and do so in their own way. So in the UK now, we're focusing on resourcing our regional hub network. So in the UK, there are around 6 to 9 regional hubs in different sort of different situations of emergence. And we're developing a project design framework rooted in our core values to guide artists and cultural organisations in designing and funding and evaluating community-focused projects. And this framework will be, through this, we'll be able to unite across the movement, projects across the movement, while allowing for kind of place-based responses and co-creation of content. So it's both uniting under our 3 values, but also allowing for place-based, as in the responses to be very much appropriate and tailored to the needs of particular populations or populations and communities in their places. And using co-creation as a kind of driving methodology behind that. And that's pretty kind of fundamental to the way that CDE works, in that it is very much a distributed movement where we allow for and encourage democratic responses and organising. So shall I just show the film, which may kind of summarise the kind of sort of activity in a rather kind of more
now, when you share the film, in the sharing, there may be a drop-down option menu for optimized audio. Just take a quick look. If it's not there, just keep rolling.
Yeah, it's not jumping out at me. Oh, well, hang on. Optimize for video sharing. There we go. Let's try that. Okay. I'm going to give it a go. See how we get on. Yeah. Okay, hold on. It's asking me for a password.
So I just want to emphasize that we have participants here from United States, Africa, Uganda, actually, Great Britain, and Spain, Amsterdam, okay, so here we go.
Okay, let's see if this works. Interesting.
We can see that mouse.
Why is it doing that then? I seem to think I want to edit it in some way.
This is a suspenseful moment.
Isn't it? I don't, hang on.
No one ever said that CDE was not a dramatic.
To the beauty of our planet.
Okay.
We unite to challenge those forces that are failing to protect life on Earth.
We embrace the power of the arts to express heartfelt truths and address deep-rooted injustices.
Harness the power of culture to create and care for adaptive, resilient, and joyful communities.
Victoria, it's something we're no longer seeing your screen.
Our collective imagination to transform society for the benefit of all beings.
We're no longer seeing your screen, Victoria.
Yeah.
We imagine.
Sorry, folks. Technical problems.
We've
Shall I
all
try that again?
we know the route. We know the routine. Can we try it again? I think that Teshni could describe a little bit how this film was made and who participated in it, and a little bit of that backstory.
Probably not the right person to be doing that, because I've only been with CDE UK for about 2 weeks, and the film was produced early last year. I'm not sure if Gabby is listening and able to contribute, but Gabby sort of directed and produced the film for us. She's one of our coordinators in the UK. Not Victoria.
Hi there. Yeah, I'm here. I'm on my phone. I'm sorry because I'm in a pottery studio at the moment. It's not ideal. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Okay. If you just give me 1 second, I'm going to see if for some reason my phone's gone on to safe driving mode. If I can make my video work, and then I will come on and tell you about the film.
Thanks
so
much.
Give me a second.
Thanks very much. You're loud and clear. There's no background noise. A moment of a contemplative moment here. So, Teshni, where are you? in Great Britain?
I'm in Bristol, in the southwest.
You're in Bristol.
Yeah.
Is Gabby going to do this, or do you want me to have another go?
Well, I
Gabby's
am
gonna-
here. I can't. My phone's gone on to safe driving mode, and I don't know how to change that. Sorry to sound so stupid, but so this was a film that I helped make for Culture Declares in the UK to kind of give a sense of what the movement was about, and who is involved in the movement, all the different kinds of artists with all the different practices that are represented, and the organizations, whether they may be galleries or venues or community hubs. So the video was a celebration of Culture Declares having kind of existed as a movement for 5 years and kind of come from nothing into a movement of thousands of individuals and organisations within the UK, but also increasingly across the world. And we just wanted to kind of show that the strength of practice, the strength and diversity of our members. So we put a call out to declarers across the world to send in videos of their practice, and we also involved declarers to talk about what the main focus of Culture Declares is. I wish I had the script in front of me. Victoria, do you want to take over from here?
Yeah, I mean, shall I play it? I'll try and play it now. Which hopefully it will speak for itself. Okay, it's this annotating icon that won't go away. Go away. So we're not having much luck. I don't know what the annotating icon is, why it's sitting there.
I can dial up this video.
I sent you a link actually, John, because I kind of thought this might happen. I sent you a link earlier on.
Hold on.
How's that?
We unite to challenge those forces that are failing to protect life on Earth.
We embrace the power of the arts to express heartfelt truths and address deep-rooted injustices.
We harness the power of culture to create and care for adaptive, resilient, and joyful communities.
We draw upon the power of our collective imagination to transform society for the benefit of all beings.
We write.
We grow.
We sit.
We imagine.
We flow.
We research. We organise.
We build.
We nurture.
We rebel. We train. We dream.
We declare.
We love a better world into being.
We are Culture Declares Emergency, and we invite you to join us.
Well, that went very well.
I'm sorry?
That went very well.
Okay, excellent. We should have rehearsed.
So we had the opportunity to hear a little bit of the background process of making the film. Is it right that did Gabby say there are how many people actively involved with Culture Declares Emergency around the world?
Shall I answer that? So currently we have around 2,000 declarers, who are individuals, very large international cultural organisations, and there are also people engaged who are not necessarily registered as declarers. So we work with organisations, big London-based cultural organisations like the South Bank Centre and the Tate. The South Bank Centre declared very recently, after we'd worked with them for a year, we held what we called a cultural assembly in September 23. And the idea of that was that it was opened out to all their communities in a kind of town hall setting. And the results of that, the kind of outcomes and the thoughts and opinions of their communities was inputted into their declaration. So that was a very kind of emergent and very brilliant way of making a declaration from bottom up rather than top down. And as a result of that, they're opening out their spaces in that way, as a town hall kind of offer to their communities 3 or 4 times a year. And they're creating a new environmental art prize. So, very, very pleased that they're sort of engaging not just with the operational decarbonising agenda, but also with the social justice agenda.
It appears that this is not sort of an adversarial or protest sort of oriented format. It seems as though this is a more of a sort of integrating various cultural perspectives to try to synthesize or derive a kind of way of transforming what it might be that's causing the emergency. Can we talk a bit about the sort of philosophy or point of view?
Yeah, I think, yeah, no, it's a good question, John. Oh, and a good provocation. I think that there's only really one piece of guidance, which is that we don't do non-violent direct, we don't do violent direct action or non-violent direct action, that everything we do is creative. And, that doesn't mean it's not protest, because, creativity can be resistant and full of protests, but it's done in a constructive and prefiguring sort of way. So again, being aware that the movement exists in different cultural contexts, what we're able to do in the UK is not necessarily something you'll be able to do in Uganda, for instance, because they have different, laws about, public protest and political oppressions, around the world. So I think it's really for each of our declaring hubs, and within that, the declaring organisations and individuals to carve their path through that. But yeah, I think at its one of its principles, I think, and Gabby might come in on this, is that what we do is, constructive in the sense it's creative and flourishing, and that's the platform for protest, and it shows up, the oppressions, through that, holding up a mirror.
Just at this moment, can someone please give us the website for people to learn about this, because we have a public audience on Facebook and YouTube. Please, if you don't mind, slowly describing how to find access to CDE. So it's www.culturedeclares.org. And is it on Facebook? Is it on Instagram?
Yeah, maybe Tessney could share those if she's still there.
I'm just dropping them in the chat now. But we are Culture Declares on Instagram. We are Culture Declares Emergency on Facebook. And we're also active, or becoming more active, on LinkedIn as well. So we'd love to engage with people there. So you can find us at Culture Declares Emergency on LinkedIn as well.
Now, let's.
This is the website if anyone's interested.
Oh.
And you can make a declaration and read through it, and you can click declare. And there is a kind of a declaration that you can use as a template and adapt to your own, make it your own and go through this step-by-step process to make a declaration.
So making a declaration is kind of a way of joining, a way of participating without taking the responsibility of becoming a hub. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's the first step, I think. I mean, there's the template, and obviously we'd, would encourage action after making the declaration.
Right.
But it shouldn't really be a barrier to, making that first step.
Now, has there been, let's call it news media or other kinds of media about Culture Declares Emergency? Are there stories? Is the narrative about Culture Declares Emergency being somehow, disseminated or broadcast?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, certainly in the UK, we're mentioned and quoted, particularly in sector, in discussions, in print, and we do our best to represent the movement through taking parts in talks and podcasts, and we're certainly well known within the cultural sector, and a lot of the bigger organisations, have made declarations themselves. It's very much at the heart of the cultural sector in the UK's environmental impact. It's on the radar here, so it's certainly impactful and known within the UK, within the sector.
Let's just for a moment, if we can, leave the sort of Britain-based people and go to Inus. Is that how Inus in Uganda? Can you open your microphone, please, and perhaps tell us about your activity? Okay.
Hey everyone. So I'm part of African Visual Artists. It's an organization here in Uganda. So I'm just getting at par with Culture Declares Emergency. That's why I do not have anything to share. I'm just getting acquainted to Culture Declares Emergency.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Why are you doing this? And why do you believe that you might be able to, in some way, contribute this sort of awareness and engagement, social engagement in your region?
Well, African Visual Artists as an organization, we do handle, at the moment we are handling the effects of climate change. And I think Culture Declares Emergency is in one way or another doing the same. So I feel like this is a great platform for us to learn more about how to curb the effects of climate change. So I think the more I interact with all of y'all is the more I will learn more about, because I'm not well acquainted with Culture Declares Emergency at the moment. That's all I can say.
What is the sort of community mentality like the community culture around climate change and global warming, pollution, other sort of impediments for sustainability in Ghana, in your town, in your home? Tell us a little bit about your place.
Pardon me, like I've not got you well.
I'm sorry?
Pardon, like I've not got you well. Pardon. I didn't get you. Like you were breaking.
Oh, my voice is breaking up?
Yeah.
Is this better? Is it better now?
Yeah, yes.
Can you tell us about the sort of state of mind, conversations, attitudes toward global warming, sustainability and pollution and other impediments to sustainability in Uganda?
There is apparently we have so many natural disasters like in Uganda. The climate might be good, like our climate systems and like that the climate schedule is nice, but then pollution is a lot, most of water pollution. We are facing a lot of deforestation.
In these, do you see the screen share that is on the screen now?
Yeah, true.
Is that you sharing the screen?
No, I just thought I'd put that up because it's Culture Declare Uganda's statement.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
It gives the context of the natural disasters.
Hold it right there. Would you like me to read this, or can Inus, can you read it?
Yeah, I can.
Please go ahead.
So,
and try whispering a little bit, not so loud speaking. Let's see how that works.
okay. So this statement is like we are having so many natural disasters, landslides, flooding, and this is really affecting the Ugandans. Like when we have the rainfalls come in handy, like they're very strong, and there are many people that are residing in the hills and mountains of Uganda that end up being affected so much, which leads to migrations, various diseases. Because at the moment, Uganda is facing, is it monkeypox, something like that? It's still an epidemic at the moment, but it is now growing at a wider range, and like it is affecting these people that have been affected by these natural disasters that are happening. So one of the reasons as to why African visual artists wants to declare and join is to help curb against all these because it is on rampage, it is really much, and like the children are mainly affected because the illiteracy levels in Uganda are really rising day by day. The death rate is rising, and it's really affecting many communities in Uganda apparently.
Thank you very much. May I ask you another question, please?
Yes.
How is the relationship, how can I put it? Maybe the word relationship is not appropriate, but the interactivity between the populace, the people, and the government. Is there a sense that people are capable, that there's an empowered feeling, that people feel they have a voice in Uganda that is being heard by the government to begin to implement some systemic changes?
Well, the government tries. That's what I can say. The government tries. The people are hard, but not all communities are helped. Like the government helps a few communities, but then the number when a disaster approaches, or like the numbers are very large. So the government only helps a few that it can, and then the rest are left unhelped. So some are hard and the others ain't hard. So the government puts up something that is going to help a few, not everyone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Emily Harris, Margaret, myself, Victoria Vesna, and Ron Rocco, our full board of directors, we would very much like to support whatever it is you're doing and post it on our website. And whatever we can do, please stay in touch with us. I'm just speaking now as, the International Cultural Activism Institute.
We will be delighted.
Yeah. Do you mind now, can we go to Rita in Madrid? Perhaps Rita can share with us what her hub is about. And yeah, thank you, Rita. There you are.
Hi. It would be great if Victoria could also share her screen with our page on it, because I'm afraid I only got the message about the presentation this morning. I didn't see that with advance. We didn't actually prepare anything, but if she shows the screen, I can do the same. I can talk a little bit about it. So I won't read it because it's in Spanish, but it was here you see a photo of Marta and Neus, and two of the founding members of Culture Declares Emergency here in Spain. Marta did an amazing project, art project, where, with the help of Extinction Rebellion, where she walked, in collaboration with Extinction Rebellion, where she walked from Granada to the permafrost in Finland. It took her the best part of a year, and made a film to spread the word, to make people realize what's going on with the climate emergency and climate collapse. Because one thing I would be interested to know from Eunice is does everybody understand about climate change? Because something very sad is going on in Spain, and maybe the rest of Europe, is that we've now gone back to climate denial, that it's not that climate activists are alarmists, and doesn't really, it's making a fuss out of nothing. And that's still on the heels of Valencia, when we had over 200 people die in historic flooding. People here don't seem to be very alarmed. So Marta's project was part of that idea to bring that understanding to people. And then she, with the help of Neus and other artists, launched Culture Declares Emergency here. And we have on the webpage, we have the chance to sign up to the manifesto. That means that you declare as well, like you can on the UK page. So you declare your support in fighting for an ecological and just transition. And then we're a very small group here. We're very new. So the other thing we're trying to organize is cultural assemblies. So there was one already in Granada. And the idea with this is to get artists together and get them talking about the issue, because in the arts here, very few people are talking about the climate and ecological emergency, and it's quite shocking. And then we would like to do artistic actions as well further on down the line, but that's in the future. And currently, NEOS is organizing the next cultural assembly in Girona. So okay. I don't know if you'd like to know anything else.
Thank you. I think so, but let's do a little bit of a circle. I guess that it would be timely, perhaps, for me to present the Institute for Cultural Activism activity and our sort of regional work. So let's see, it's now about 10:10. We have 20 minutes remaining in our presentation time, and then we can open the floor for conversations. Sort of a roundtable conversation, perhaps, of all the people who are here. And I'm going to do my screen share now. Let's see if I can do that. Where are you? I think that's it. Let's see. Oh no. There we go. So very briefly, in 1977, I was part of a group that organized, let's not call it a protest, but it was a sort of an intervention with mass media. There was so much terrorism and violence in the news, it seemed as though we were in a marketplace for fear and anxiety. And a number of us at the time felt that we should intervene with the news content and interrupt the narrative to present a positive narrative that was created not by one artist, but by an organization of artists, a community, a collective of artists who produced a work of art. And this was called bridging. We climbed up on every bridge in New York City at the same time, at rush hour in the morning, and did dance performances and lit off smoke flares. We were wearing each color, 7 colors of the spectrum, 7 bridges. It was broadcast on major news around the world. Bear in mind that there was no internet, there was no fax machine. It was radio, print, and TV. So that we consider a kind of historic moment for cultural activism. I was introduced to Joseph Beuys. Rather, Joseph Beuys was introduced to me, vice versa, by the Feldman Gallery. And then my organization, the Art Corporation of America Incorporated, joined the Free International University. Actually, it's through Heather and Dan, members of CDE, that Emily and I were informed and invited to participate in CDE. So their involvement with the Joseph Beuys oak planting, sort of reviving that, that was a recent work of theirs going back a few years. And so that's how we got involved with CDE. And through a number of cultural activist projects, eventually Emily and I, started this this website and our official nonprofit foundation. So we are a nonprofit foundation. That's a kind of that's a kind of alternative economic way that people in the United States can transform culture. Wealthy people or anybody who have a few dollars can put money into an organization like our organization and have some cultural impact. It's not like it is in Europe. In America, we don't have sponsorship by the government. It's very, very limited. So this alternative economic model exists, and we've sort of imagined ourselves as an institute, as an art project, and this institute is here to serve community, to create community, to identify cultural activism, including CDE, around the world, and hopefully to engage and activate an international network, a movement, so to speak. Recently, we've had these screenings of 2 of my films, one of which is the Joseph Beuys Transformer film, because we want to initiate conversation between communities of different backgrounds, different ways of life. Republicans, Democrats get together and have a conversation. We also have a contemplative program of meditation and meditation retreat. We have a facility that we've been able to use a few miles from here that have retreat centers, little cottages that people can have artists in residency, contemplative retreats. This is one of the buildings there. This is made of straw bale house, ecologically sound sustainability architecture. One of our recent Tuning Forks was a documentary about the activist Harry Belafonte, quite well-known man whose career was really at the sort of, the chain of command for Harry was his human rights activity, his work as an activist, using his career to catapult and to nurture the movement, which was originally, for Harry, began with Martin Luther King and all the leaders at that time of the liberation movement. I'm sorry. The Tuning Fork, as you know, we're in a Tuning Fork now. We've had 47 episodes. Here you see the Culture Declares. Our 45th episode was in Japan with Margaret, our board member and partner. We can talk about that perhaps another moment. Victoria Vesna, also a member, board member, and her sunflower plasma. She's an art science teacher at UCLA in California. Babette is a Free International University member, also in Amsterdam. And Babette almost single-handedly started the Buddhist Film Channel, which was a television channel in Holland with government funding. And that is kind of like, for her, a social sculpture. Fred Wilson, the renowned African-American cultural activist, whose work we explored in episode 42, and so on. You can see these episodes rolling out here before you. So our initiation of Tuning Fork was because of the COVID pandemic. We couldn't go out. So we created a sort of safe space at a very low cost to hold these community meetings with cultural activists around the world. And we respect that every culture, as Victoria mentioned earlier, has a different methodology based on their geographic culture and location and circumstances. And so we're trying to explore that, and we're actually trying to create scholarship around what cultural activism is and how to engage socially engaged artists, how to expand into community. One of our methods is also through the radio show, which we have a bi-weekly radio show called Tuning Fork FM. You can see that we're members of Culture Declares Emergency here. Back in 2022, we began a project, hold on here. Let's see, I'll go first. Am I taking too much time? Possibly, let's see. Well, this is one of our public programs. This is Surfing the Apocalypse karaoke, and people get together, have a conversation about, I'm keeping the thing on silent. We get together, have a conversation about issues like the radical Canadian wildfires that were occurring every summer, but the air became so bad that we had to wear masks out here in the mountains. And we discussed together in the stable, which we call the unstable, why these conditions may be occurring, how we can intervene with that, and why we're not learning about the origin, why these fires are occurring in Canada. And we know largely that it's a consequence of global warming. So after we have this conference, we sing. We get together and we sing love songs in a pentagon. You can see here, where on the screens outdoors, we show apocalyptic images and images like what Culture Declares Emergency is doing, socially engaged projects to transform mind and encourage cultural activism and transformation. Margaret and Emily and I were in Capri, Italy a few years ago, and we created QR activations where people would take a photograph of our QR code as we walked in slow motion through major centers like in Capri and in Gothenburg, Sweden, New York City, at the Oculus and Wall Street. And they see those images of horrific crises around the world and what artists are doing to interact and intervene and create that sort of stunning moment in the mind where we can say, well, what is it that we're doing? How can I change my perspective about how I see myself and my capacity to contribute to the world? So this is called QR Portal Activations, and you can see us on the street there. So these are some of the things that we're doing. We have a sort of curriculum and methodology. Oh, yeah. And so that's about it for us. And we're just, all of us, very delighted to be part of Culture Declares Emergency Tuning Fork today. Okay, we have about 8 minutes left for conversations or presentations. Maybe Margaret, would you like to talk about your, you were thinking about, Margaret, becoming a hub in Amsterdam, but you're over scheduled, and perhaps we could discuss, like, what about that? What about how does someone participate in Culture Declares Emergency without sort of having the burden of having yet another thing to do, so to speak, because we're all very busy making our living if we can and funding our work. And so we all have these challenges we share. Margaret, do you want to weigh in for a moment and say what
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thank you, John. Firstly, maybe I should share just very, very briefly, like John mentioned before, I was invited to do a project in Japan. So I do participative performance projects. And in Japan, actually, it was a very specific situation because my performance was happening in the context of a larger project, which was related to, or is related to, the rebuilding of an area with a lot of old houses that are being abandoned. So a group of artists and architects are renovating the houses, and my performance took place in one of these houses. My performance is kind of like a ritual that involves people in a process and tries to engage people in new ways so they become more or in a different way aware of each other and also aware of the environment. And also interesting to mention that this project in Japan was also connected to the Noto Peninsula earthquake from 1 year ago. So a lot of the people that were involved in our project, they are also they're architects active in trying to rebuild this Noto Peninsula area. Yeah. So and then maybe briefly about so I wanted to join. I wanted to build or open or join Culture Declares Emergency and build a hub here, but I'm doing small art for impact courses here at my studio, and I'm also teaching in Singapore basically the same thing. So the art for impact courses are related to participative performance art, and I'm introducing international artists who are active in that area in different ways. I've had a hard time taking these art for impact courses from the ground here at my studio because yeah, it looks like many people are engaged in many different activities, and it's difficult to have a continuous course. I've really struggled with it. So, but I'm still thinking. I mean, I'm in a building here. It's one of the oldest and largest artist studio buildings, or yeah, creative buildings here. And they have, well, there's a bit more attention now on what we are doing in the building. So perhaps I'm going to have another chance to make the Art for Impact a little bit more public, and that might allow me to join Culture Declares Emergency in a different way, hopefully.
Well, Margaret, you are doing the work that you would do as a hub. Anyway, you're already doing it. So, you know, you can just declare it right now.
Yeah,
Anyway.
They will be very tiny.
There isn't a
Yeah.
level of practice you have to be at. It's just, you know, sharing, and you know, the more we show we're doing, you know, sharing our practice, and it's not supposed to be an additional burden. You know, we're all stretched, particularly now when artists are so underpaid and overworked.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, but you'd obviously be more than welcome as a declarer. And so we do have this network of hubs, which is great, but we also have a network of declarers, individuals, crafters, different sorts of cultural practitioners, and the hub. So it's the whole network that's important. So yeah, we'd love to have your declaration and any sort of, you know, amplify your work across the platforms would be brilliant. It sounds fabulous work.
That's great, Victoria. I think that now we should just open up a roundtable and see how this continues. We're not sort of obliged to remain until 11 o'clock here in New York, 11 o'clock. One of the things that's challenging Emily and I with the Tuning Fork is that we don't have a very large audience, which, you know, it's not about our egos. It's about the content of the Tuning Fork's episodes are so rich and so unique and so fresh that we want people to know about it, that we want people to benefit from that content. So one of our challenges is how to expand our audience. Perhaps other people here can talk about challenges that they're having, and I think that there was some funding that came from an organization in Spain, isn't it? That sort of helped to lift up and sustain Culture Declares Emergency for a while. How is that now, and what was the history there of the funding?
Okay, so you're talking about the Gulbenkian Foundation. Yeah, they're Portuguese, based in Lisbon.
In Lisbon, right?
Generously supported us. I mean, it started off as a few £1,000s, and then it continued, and then they gave us some good amount of money to rebuild the website. And one of the problems that we've had is that CDE as a movement is unincorporated, so they're really the only trust and foundation who are prepared to give you know, an organization, or not an organization, a movement, an unincorporated movement, any funding. And that's the kind of structural problem of the way funding is organized, which does actually you know, disadvantage grassroots movements that you know, we have mindfully not wanting to incorporate, because we don't want that top-down hierarchical organizing structure. But they were forward thinking enough to see around that. The problem is that we haven't managed to get much match funding, because for the same reason. So CDE UK is incorporating as a community interest company, purely so we can apply for funding in the UK through the kind of more, you established structures. So at the moment, we're kind of living a bit hand to mouth. We're about to do a thing called the Green Match Fund, where up to £10,000, if we're successful in going through this first stage, money will be matched. So every £1, John, if you were to give £1, it would be matched £1. And that match funding will go up to £10,000, and then any funding we make on top will be unmatched, but will still be very welcome, of course. So we are going to launch that. So I will, if you don't mind, share it through the Hub network. But it's a continuing problem, isn't it? Funding. And going back to your original question, we also have, so for the same reasons, Culture Declares set up, this is Culture Declares in the UK, set up the thing called the offer during lockdown. So similarly, we have some amazing content and increasingly smaller audiences for it. So maybe it's something we need to kind of get our heads together as a global movement and think about how we could, maybe take on Tuning Fork or combine Tuning Fork and the offer to increase our audiences and maybe attract some funding or somebody, an organization who might put it out as podcasts. I don't know. I mean, it's great content.
Yes. Let's have a conversation about that.
Yeah.
That really could be a substantive initiative. I think that's a great idea. What do you think? What do you think, Margaret?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. Yeah, it's really sad to have so much rich content, and to not reach a larger public. So let's put our heads together and think about that.
Yeah, I think maybe getting a media partner, a progressive media partner. Yeah, you never know. You don't know till you try, do you?
Yeah, and we have to really make an effort to carve out time for that try. It becomes a management problem too. So with more funding, then management can be shared with other individuals who could be paid individuals, like an intern or assistants, and there you see the prosperity and let's say the sort of power and energy of the movement can grow.
Yeah, so, absolutely. I mean, that is a significant barrier, is the fact that we all lean really into people who haven't got jobs because they've got the time, but what they don't have is the money. So there's this very precarious existence that particularly freelancers in the creative sector live. So it would be one of our targets, one of our aims for the next year is to bring some money in so we can pay more, coordinators and, like you say, people to do some of this work, or at least remunerate them for the work that they're doing.
So, I mean, it could be interesting, like, for example, I don't know if there are other projects like Margaret's or just any cultural gathering of community that could be broadcast on, let's say, Tuning Fork channel or something like that. I mean, the idea of a tuning fork, we all know, is like it radiates, So it's always the question about what you want to radiate in the world, from your mind, from your family, from your community. How are we going to radiate, awareness and engagement? So anyway, I was just wondering, if there's some way to explore setting up a kind of media network of our own, so that Margaret's classes or Rita's activities, Enos in Uganda, that there's a sort of channel that we can tune into on a regular basis. Maybe we can discuss that.
Yeah, and it would be great, like you say, to have more. We do discussions, but also when the offer was set up, there was a more sort of creative engagement version of it, where you come along and you do online workshops and meditation and yoga, and so sort of practical creative engagement, and alongside that, the more kind of narrative cerebral discussions. So really interested to hear about content and whether Tuning Fork and the offer can combine to present some of those.
Right.
So Tesney, who you met, part of her remit is to produce a couple of these offers over the next 6 months. So, you know, we have actually got a paid person for 6 months, so we can all, you know, if we put our heads together, we can come up with some really high content maybe for that, and use that opportunity.
I just want to say that, you know, after the show today, after this Tuning Fork, I'm interviewing another artist for the radio show, getting in the car, driving 35 minutes to the radio station, and broadcasting the interview that we're going to do, you know, at 11:15. So, you know, this is sort of because of what's happened in America and what's going on, this sort of neoconservatism that's going on around the world, we're feeling even more compelled, as we did during the COVID pandemic, to have more frequent interactions with community. And in my experience, last weekend, when we showed the Joseph Beuys Transformer film and the film Refuge with the Dalai Lama and Martin Scorsese, people showed up passionately to talk about meditation, to talk about sustainability, to talk about cultural activism. People showed up. I mean, this is like a wave that is rising as this other narrative is going on. Yeah. So it's so important that we realize we can create a narrative and have substantial, substantive impact from grassroots.
Yeah, right. I mean, you've touched on the sort of the background to all this. I mean, what's happened in the States, you know, to acknowledge your suffering around that, but also we're all terrified, you know, and we have to come out fighting. We have to unite, and we have to do exactly what you said, John. We have to have courage. I mean, it is deeply distressing. I mean, it's more Elon Musk, to be honest, than Trump himself. Absolutely terrifying what's being unleashed. You know, so we have to having these sessions. You're right. I think the response to that is the need to be together and to find solidarity.
Well, listen, it's so interesting.
Gabby actually has her hand up.
Oh, thank you, Gabby. Please, yeah.
Hi there. Yeah, I'm just interested to kind of to chip in about how you were talking about these two things happening at the same time, the kind of rise of a neoconservatism and all that might mean, and then also the way that actually there's a lot of kind of really positive movements coming, and how that ties in with the work of Joanna Macy and her active hope kind of framework, and the work that reconnects, that that she posits this idea of the great unraveling, which is the time that we're going through, and also the great turning, which is as people start to do the work and and really kind of starting to I guess to reassess what our value systems are, and to do that in a creative way. And that's why culture declares emergency, and your work in New York State, John, and that having these creative minds is so key to that reimagining of a world that is fairer, safer, greener, regenerative for all beings. So I think it's no surprise that these two things are kind of happening at the same time, and why culture is so key to kind of support the rebirth.
Well, by the way, thank you for mentioning Joanne Macy. Such an extraordinary resource for everyone. And I just want to say with some energy that, Joanne is doing this work that we're doing. We're doing the work that she's doing. The frustrating thing, and it need not be frustrating, but how do we get everyone to know about what everybody else is doing? Because that's called a movement. That's called a movement. And this sort of idea of a duality of neoconservatism and, you know, sustainability movement, whatever we want to call this movement, the awake movement, I don't know what it's called, but, you know, there is not a duality. It's actually maybe a great social evolution that's going through very dynamic moment right now. And I think Joanne would say that. A lot of teachers would say that, and visionaries. So I think, you know, we just have to bear with it. And instead of resisting, I think we should just insist. It's not about aggressive or, let's say, adversarial dynamics. It's something different. It's identifying in the other the reality that they're going through and how this exists at the same time as other realities, and how do we, you know, get these voices to hear each other. So, you know, I do a lot of writing about this in the newspaper. That's one of the things that I didn't mention, but, you know, our program, at least it implies a sort of complexity. And we're just barely able to get by doing this. We had a friend who donated some money to us recently, and we didn't even have time to do a matching grant campaign because this person would have given us $500,000 if we had raised $500,000 otherwise. So we only got $38,000, but we're so blessed by that, and we're able to continue a little bit longer. So anyway, that's sort of how it is, folks, with our institute. And I don't know how we should wrap this up today. I think we're doing great. It's a great program, hopefully inspiring other people who are not part of CDE or ICAI to join us, okay? It's not like you don't have to unjoin anything else. Just keep joining, keep joining, and be a link between different communities. There's an idea.
Great. Thank you, John. Thank you for holding this space for us today. And I hope that you know, somebody else will pick it up for next time. I have said that CDE UK would do it, but I think it's really nice that the other international hubs do this for a while, just so we can get the role. And I don't know whether Rita, Spain might consider that. You did offer it.
Yeah, I could try. I'm not the most experienced with Zoom, but if you all have a lot of patience with me, I'll do my best.
Yeah, that's the thing, Rita. The thing is, people who are a little bit media savvy, technically savvy, if they don't know how to do it, maybe get someone else to help that piece, and you know, you direct it. But for me, it's been easy because I transitioned into this media from filmmaking. Okay, these are transferable skills. So not to be frustrated. Margaret knows how to do it. Anyway, we're here for you, Rita, if you need any technical assistance or co-production.
Yeah, I'd probably need, I don't know if I can use someone else's Zoom account because we don't have a paid Zoom account. And so the free one would run out after 40 minutes, or we'd have to leave.
40 minutes. That's what you got, 40 minutes. Do it.
Okay. All right. Next meeting, 40 minutes.
No, and listen, we pay, let's pool our resources. CDE UK has a professional account, so it's open to anybody to use. We just have to get you on there, or, you know, because you're in the same time zone as me, it would be easier for me to set you up, and, you know, I'm happy to carry the technical bit. Not that I'm particularly good at that. But yeah, you can use the CDE UK Zoom account. That goes for everybody at any time. It sits there, we pay for it, let's use it.
Great.
Well, Victoria and everybody else in Great Britain who's been part of lifting up CDE to the status and that it's in now, congratulations and thank you for all the hard work. We know what it means. It's very, very touching and inspiring. Thank you for that. And thank you for opening up the table for the more international elements of CDE to be a little more responsible and engaged. Thank you.
And thank you for picking up the baton. And I'm sorry I people can't see my face, but next time you'll have that pleasure.
Lots of love to everybody. Thank you, audience,
Thank you. Bye.
Facebook
Bye.
and YouTube.
Eunice,
Stay tuned for updates and please send us your email addresses so we can be more involved with each other's activities. All the best.